Well, right now, what we're looking for is a vote at noon. It's a very crucial vote. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has called it after a lot of bargaining and, frankly, a lot of blame gaming over the weekend. Democrats and Republicans are both blaming each other for this shutdown, as they always do. But there will be a vote at high noon. But in this vote, there will be not a deal on these DACA people, the dreamers as we call them. These were young people brought over illegally by their parents. There's a promise in this deal that Senator McConnell will work on legislation to protect them from being deported next March. That's just a promise. And it isn't a promise for action right away. He's saying that he'll work on it next month in February if something isn't done in between. A lot of Democrats may not buy that. And a lot of Democrats want a deal right now. They want the dreamers settled right away. They felt that it should have been settled months ago. Time's wasting. We're getting closer and closer to March. There isn't that much time. Let's do something now. In addition to the difficulty over all of these issues on the Senate side, we have to realize that in the House, a lot of hardcore conservative Republicans in the Freedom Caucus, they don't like spending bills in general, which is what this is. They think that the government spending is out of hand. They don't like this bill, and they're not particularly thrilled about helping the dreamers. And so the question is, even if the Senate at noon passes this bill, will it pass the House? Looking ahead, even if the Senate passes this bill at noon, the question is what will happen in the House. There's a lot of reaction in the House, a lot of resistance to short-term spending bills by very conservative Republicans in the Freedom Caucus. They don't like the levels of government spending the way they are. That's an issue, over aside from the dreamers. And they're not particularly enthusiastic about helping the dreamers. That's not a big issue for them. So we don't know if there's going to be enough votes for this bill, even if it gets past the Senate, if it will clear the House. Now, going back to the Senate for just a moment, looking at that vote, Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, needs 60 votes to have this clear. That means he needs at least a dozen Democrats, because there are only 51 Republicans. And of those 51, a lot of them aren't thrilled with this bill, and they may not support him. We have to watch what happens to Democrats in red states that we have to watch out for Democrats in states that voted for President Trump. They're in a lot of trouble. They're worried about re-election, and they want to settle this situation. And they may break ranks from Democrats who don't want to go for this deal because they don't think it's good enough. They may want to. They've had enough. They can look ahead and see that they might be in trouble for their election next November, the midterm elections. And because of that, they want to settle the deal now. So you have a split really within the Democrats. Shall we vote for this bill to protect our political hides, or shall we try to do something for the dreamers? And that's pretty much where the situation is now. The final point I would make is the blame game point. Who gets blamed for the shutdown? Republicans have the House, the Senate, the White House. A lot of people think because they run everything and there's a shutdown on their watch, they'll get the blame. Republicans say, no, it's the Democrats' fault. We have a bill that's acceptable. We have a program that's acceptable here. We're trying to work on the dreamers and everything else. And here you are, you're insisting on these dreamers, these young people that were brought in here illegally, over, for instance, programs that we want to move ahead with that help children's health insurance. We want to help our soldiers overseas. They're not going to get paid. We want to keep people on the job in the federal government. And you're throwing all that out over this effort to help the dreamers. They think it's unfair. So with all of these issues roiling around, it's hard to see where we're going from here, what's going to happen, and what the final outcome is going to be.